All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. We would like to welcome you to today's webinar, The Efficiency Edge, Why Technology and Training Are Critical to Post-COVID Business Success. If we have learned anything from the past year, we all know that COVID-19 has changed the way that businesses operate forever. To emerge stronger from this pandemic, manufacturers must begin reskilling their workforce to adapt to the digital technology transformation that has occurred over the past year. Adapting employees' skills and roles to a post-COVID business world will be crucial to building operating model resilience. Today, our roundtable participants will be discussing strategies and business practices so that manufacturers can continue to stay competitive in this new business and economic environment. I'd like to begin by introducing our panelists for today. Our first panelist is Dirk Bayless. Dirk is the plant manager for Mann & Hummel's production facility in Dunlap, Tennessee. Mann & Hummel is a Germany-based global leader in filtration solutions for automobiles, industrial applications, clean air interior spaces, and sustainable use of water. The company develops, produces, and distributes a number of filtration products and is heavily involved in research and development for future filtration needs. Dirk is a certified speaker, mentor, and coach who helps local businesses and community professionals in developing leaders within their organization. Dirk dedicates his professional time in adding value to organizations and people through leadership, speaking, mentoring, and coaching, and has over 20 years of experience in the manufacturing environment. Our next panelist that is with us today is Ashton Pallett. As the Director of Information Technology Americas, Ashton connects technology solutions with critical business opportunities at Sage Automotive Interiors, a leading global supplier of high-performance technical materials for the automotive industry. Whether driving global ERP initiatives or AI implementations on the factory floor, Ashton leads Sage's digital transformation journey across all areas of the organization. Our third panelist is Denise Rice, President and CEO of Peak Performance. Peak Performance is a workforce training and advising firm specializing in operational excellence and industrial skills training, serving businesses across the country from their headquarters in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Peak Performance empowers its customers to transform their operational strategy through comprehensive sustainable solutions in people and processes. She also serves as a manufacturing consultant to the Tennessee Manufacturers Association, which is a division of the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Previously, she was an operations executive with a career spanning more than 25 years with Corning Incorporated. And our fourth panelist is Phil Morris. As co-founder and CEO of Mariner, a company that provides AI-enhanced technology that helps manufacturers dramatically reduce their total cost of quality, Phil is able to pursue his passion of delivering business value. His 30+ years of experience in manufacturing, technology, and operations have converged with today's explosive growth in IoT and AI to drive Mariner's strategy and business development as a world leader in manufacturing defect detection and elimination. Under Phil's leadership, Mariner was named Microsoft's 2020 Worldwide Partner of the Year for its Spyglass visual inspection and Spyglass assembly verification solutions, which are currently the lowest risk and fastest path to real-time automated quality inspection. So those are our four panelists. Thank you guys for joining us. And without further ado, we will get started. So our first question: leaders today should be prepared to adapt through transformation because businesses and technology landscapes in which they operate are continually evolving. We have seen the pandemic push technology advancements forward faster. So how can workplaces support evolving technology and the workforce required to complete it? So Dirk, we'll start with you.
All right, it's a great question. That's really what we're looking at in the automotive world right now. As you all know, we have our challenges with the chips and our labor shortages. So, one of the things that we look at is, that technology push for advancements is, how do we reduce the labor content? And it's pretty hard because most manufacturers in my world are heavy labor content. So it starts from the top of wanting to invest in that technology to support that technology that's out there. And the challenge of that is we need a higher skill set to run those technologies. So we're finding a balance in between, just the production worker versus somebody who can come in and identify or solve problems in a fast manner for that new technology. It kind of goes into the second question, so I'm sorry if I answered part of the second question. The workforce required to it, we work with the local community colleges and UTC. Cleveland State calls it multi-crafting. We talked about the mechatronics programs between Chat State and UTC, but that's the workforce that we have to go after now when we introduce this new technology to reduce some of the labor content. And it's also about material movement too in our world is, what does that technology look like to move the masses of material that we need?
All right, thank you. Thank you for those thoughts. Ashton, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, and I think it's great. We've got, some different perspectives here. Dirk's coming from a plant level and I'm coming from an IT perspective. So, as you say, technology advancements are moving very quickly in lots of different areas, not just manufacturing. But really, in order to take advantage of those advancements, you've got to have partnership with those other areas of the business. It's not just about the technology. When you are looking to introduce a new technology, so recently, we've done some projects in artificial intelligence, and that was certainly brand new to our organization. First you've got to convince people this is going to work. Some of the things we were proposing seemed kind of off the wall and impossible at the time. And so in order to get past that barrier, at Sage, when we're pushing a project like that, we start very small. We introduce very small pilot projects, or sometimes we call them experiments. And that process works, really well. It allows you to not only demonstrate the value of the solution, get people excited about it, but just as important, it helps you identify, potential experts and partners within the organization that are going to help you drive adoption to push these technology advancements. When we start these AI projects, I certainly don't know who those subject matter experts are going to be, because they don't exist at that time. This is brand new to us. But as you start to move through those projects, those people start to bubble up and come to the surface. And those are the ones you want to latch onto. They're buying in. They're doing the work. They're going above and beyond to help you be successful, in these efforts, because they see the value, right? And they want to be a part of it. It's fun and exciting to do these new kind of projects. So finding these people in your organization and encouraging them early on, I think that's really important to being able to take advantage of this technology. And then, another point to consider is really looking at we call it the literacy of your organization when it comes to technology topics. So, one thing you could look to do is really improve that, right? So if everybody is speaking the same language, and you're not looking to create an army of experts, but if everybody can just at a basic level understand, what are the advantages of some of this technology, then you can start to generate ideas from a larger pool, and it becomes easier to get that buy-in and partnership that you need to succeed. So, I would consider, an educational program. There's lots of online resources, CBT training out there. And it's something that Sage is looking to start here very soon, because I think we definitely see the value in that as we've done some of these more advanced technology projects.
All right. Thank you for those. That's some good insight and definitely a different perspective. So thank you for that. Denise and Phil, what comments do you have to add? Denise, you can have the floor first.
All right, thanks, Ryan. I think that many of the components of Industry 4.0 and that industrial revolution, such as systems integration and cloud-based solutions, were really heavily relied on by manufacturers during the pandemic. Even automation and robots were identified as key to helping manufacturers survive this time that we went through of social distancing. And a lot of manufacturers also experienced a high level of absenteeism due to either illness or their employees were quarantining due to the exposure. And so being able to have that response is what helped them survive. But we just don't have enough technology deployed right now. And worse yet, we just don't have enough people with the skills to operate and maintain it. So as we're moving forward, we really see this acceleration of let's get this technology going so that we can shore ourselves up, because we keep hearing across the country we're back, but we want to be back stronger than what we were before the pandemic. And we really got caught in a situation that affected a lot of businesses. And so as we're coming back, we're trying to implement some of those improvements so that we won't be in that same position. With that, though, manufacturing jobs will not be replaced by technology, but they really definitely are going to require a different skill set. And in addition, our new generation that's entering the workforce right now is pretty tech savvy. They're digitally connected and they expect their employers to be also. So it's like this perfect storm coming together of we had a really tough lesson that we learned, plus the new generation coming in is expecting it. And so they're accustomed to constant technology upgrades. They expect to have a career of lifelong learning. And we need to embrace that and encourage that and be sure that we're offering them challenging positions with growth opportunities. Then the incumbent workforce that is currently there, they realize that this technology change is coming and they realize that they need to keep pace with that and they want the opportunity to learn. But an incumbent worker needs different training, a different training format than an emergent worker. And when I use those terms, and when I'm talking about incumbent worker, I'm talking about somebody who's experienced it and has been in the manufacturing field, and your emergent worker is somebody who's coming out of school. And so even though in the workforce, a lot of times we tend to treat them the same, we have to recognize the real differences between them and what they need and how they need that to be different. And an incumbent worker who has been in the workforce and is being faced with new technology and new challenges, they want micro learning sessions that are relevant and are immediately applicable to their job. They want to have it work around their schedule because they have full-time jobs, they have homes, they have children to take care of. And sometimes a traditional degree program or a traditional apprenticeship program just doesn't work for them. And we don't want technology to outpace them and make them obsolete workers. We want them to keep up with technology. So looking at different training programs for that incumbent worker is vital to a manufacturer's success.
All right, thank you. Good thoughts there. Phil, what do you have to add?
Thanks, Ryan. One, I was really pleased to hear Ashton talk about an environment of experimentation, because that's the key really to adopting AI. I truly believe that. And then also Denise's point about, the jobs aren't going to go away, but they are going to change. So I believe that for organizations to really successfully support the technology adoption, they've got to support and reward a culture of curiosity and experimentation. But most importantly, leadership's got to demonstrate that technology adoption doesn't mean laying workers off whose jobs are automated. They've got to invest in the workforce through training so that as technology reduces the low value tasks, it replaces a workforce that provides it's replaced by a workforce that provides even higher valued services. Without that commitment to reinvestment in the workforce, company leadership shouldn't be surprised to encounter a workforce unwilling to contribute to their own displacement. So we truly believe strongly that, and agree with Denise's assertion that we're not going to see jobs going away, but the jobs are going to change.
All right, thank you so much. All right, let's move on. When it comes to translating technological innovations into real business, it's important to remember that technology is only one aspect of the solution. Change management and training are equally as important. So how do you guys think tomorrow's technology workforce will be different than today's? And how will jobs and roles change? And what skills and capabilities do you think will be needed? Ashton, I'm going to let you kick this one off.
All right, thank you. Again, coming from an IT perspective, it can certainly be easy and sometimes a trap for our teams to just focus on the technology, because that's what we know. It's easy for us. But really, as you say, change management is really the critical component. The true ROI of technology, can never be realized simply by delivering technology. Who's going to use it, how are they going to use it, and do they even know why they're going to use it, right? So these are some important questions to answer as it relates to change management. I'm leading a global ERP implementation right now, and I can assure you that the technology is by far the easiest part of that. In order for this to be successful, we got to make sure we have the right skill sets in place, to take advantage of these new systems. At Sage, when we're doing projects in manufacturing, a lot of the results of those projects are really enormous amounts of new data, whether it's data coming from new systems that are in place, new machines, or we're combining data from multiple systems. We've gotten these new data sets that are in place, and a lot of times we end up with this question, well, we've got all this data, well, what are we going to do with it? How do we take advantage of it? And do we have people in place to do that? So one of the things we focus on at Sage is, making sure we've got some data analysis skills. Do people know how to work with the data, whether, simply in Excel? There are lots of Excel gurus out there that can do amazing things in Excel, to other tools like Power BI and Tableau. Do people have a way to find the answers out of these data haystacks that are out there? Can they find the insights in it? To me, it's certainly an area that we focus on at Sage, and I think that's really important. An important part of that change management piece, again, because the technology isn't going to solve the problem alone. It's really about getting people engaged with that technology.
All right, thank you. Before I move on, I forgot to mention that if any of you guys, any of the participants there today have questions at any time, put those in the Q&A section for us, and we will get to those after our main panel discussion. All right, Denise, you want to elaborate a little bit on what Ashton said?
Sure, I wholeheartedly agree. And while we are well into this industrial revolution, it's important to remember this is our fourth industrial revolution. So we've done this before. And so I'm sure when assembly lines were introduced in the late 1800s, or computers and PLCs were introduced in the late 1960s, there was a lot of automation anxiety then. And but history has taught us again that while the jobs are changing, the work doesn't go away. There'll continue to be plenty of work. It's just that the skills required will be different. And you can think about a number of the jobs that are being impacted by automation today. The farming industry, even military, they're using a lot of robots in the military. Fast food workers, I go to my favorite Panera Bread, and there isn't anybody who takes my order. I plug it right into a tablet. Drivers, and we have the self-drivers, stockbrokers, and how about travel agents? When was the last time you called a travel agent to make any plans? So all of the different industries are being affected by technology, and we realize that manufacturing is constantly evolving, and Industry 4.0 is going to make marked changes on modern manufacturing. And we understand that we need to identify those skills and ease that transition. So I am very happy to announce that the Tennessee Manufacturers Association, in collaboration with the Deutsche Messe, the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga, and Volkswagen, has garnered support for a Smart Factory Institute. And this Smart Factory Institute is a business-driven effort which will drive technology and innovation. It's a public-private venture, and it will exist inside the Volkswagen Academy here in Chattanooga, which I'm broadcasting from today. So happy to come to you all from VW today. And they're going to provide manufacturers with connections, collaborative relationships, and certificates for improving manufacturing processes by providing them with the latest technology and advanced manufacturing. What's really exciting about this is not only is it a global network of partners, which will connect with partners in Germany, Africa, China, and of course here at the US. We have really pulled in the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga and their industrial organizational psychology group. And their focus really is on the worker. And they will be identifying how this is affecting workers, what skills are most needed, and what skills are in the different industries are most lacking. So I think having that industrial organizational psychology component of it is going to be really advantageous to this venture.
Thank you, Denise. That's really great to hear about the Smart Factory. That's going to be great for this area and industry as a whole. Derek, we'll go to you now. What do you have to add to that?
I just echo what Ashton said. You got to trust the technology when it first comes in. In the automotive manufacturing side of it, there's nostalgia all over the place, and some of the quote unquote seasoned people are afraid of that new technology. But if we're going to be competitive in the market and also be attractive to the new workforce that Denise and Phil were talking about, with the highly skilled, with getting our workforce, giving them other avenues than just putting parts together, we have to be that change management. We do have to challenge the new people coming into the workforce, and we see it. Denise, you're absolutely right. Where is that challenge? You talked about the fourth industrial revolution, IIoT. It's what we say, what got us here today will not get us there tomorrow. And we're seeing it. And if we're not part of that change management, and if we're not going to educate our people and change what we think, we're not going to be competitive, and we're sure as a company not going to be attractive to the new workforce.
All right, thank you. Thank you for those thoughts. Phil?
Yeah, I'm just jumping on to the Industry 4.0 discussion. There were 3 previous industrial revolutions, and seismic change was the result, and we expect seismic change as a result of this as well. Whenever there is seismic change, there's going to be winners and losers. And so with IoT providing greater transparency into the manufacturing processes, the workforce has to make that transition from being operators to being problem solvers who are creative and inventive. In the new world of smart manufacturing, those creative, inventive workers are going to need expertise and skills to cope with the new challenges that we encounter in the smart manufacturing workplace. So the seismic change not only creates winners and losers within the workforce, but it's also going to create winners and losers among companies. So those companies that get this right, they're going to be winners in this new information-driven economy.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you all for those thoughts. Next, COVID-19 has exposed the vulnerability of our supply chains. How has this affected companies, and what steps would you guys recommend to build that supply chain resiliency? Phil, I'm going to go back to you and let you start
Sure.
this one out.
Yeah, of course, we're not a manufacturer. We're a technology company, though, and all of our customers are manufacturers. So from our perspective, the biggest supply chain issue that we've encountered is the properly equipped edge servers that we need to perform inference on our customers' images for spyglass visual inspection or the assembly verification products. So we're currently negotiating a deal to allow us to forecast the future needs and pay a premium to have those machines procured and stored and then shipped as we need them. While it's costly to do that for us, it's not as costly as not being able to provision new customers with equipment. So while this issue may seem very specific to Mariner, I suspect that Dirk and Ashton may have similar problems if they're deploying AI to their factory floors. They're going to have the same problems because it is central to so many Industry 4.0 applications.
All right, Dirk, you want to follow up there?
Yeah, I kind of laughed at myself at this question because in my world in manufacturing, the supply chain hit us really hard over the past 14 months. You know, the COVID has shut down ports, it's reduced the border crossings, and it's exposed the vulnerability of manufacturing and how much we rely on those certain things. You know, so, you know, a couple of things that we had to do is we had to increase our lead times. You know, we obviously want to shorten our inventories to save cash, but we realized, you know, we got to extend our lead times and get more material in here. We looked at different hours of operation just to, you know, see if that works, maybe opening up the weekends versus running 3 days due to the supply chain issues. We also went so far to change our ocean shipments. You know, a lot of the ocean shipments come into, for us, the Port of Long Beach, and we had to reroute them to Houston, you know, to compensate some of that workforce shortages that the ports have in the border crossings at Mexico. So it's been really interesting. We really had to think outside the box on how to get our material, you know, here and in a timely manner, so we don't impact the OEMs, for example, Ford, GM, and those guys. So it's been a challenge.
All right, thank you. Ashton, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, you know, I'm certainly not a supply chain guru, but, you know, Dirk touched on it, you know, a number of the knobs you can turn related to scheduling and lead times and, you know, managing their inventory levels differently than you might have. You know, I think everybody has come up with some kind of different solution to handle this because, you know, just like Dirk's company, we've been hit on, you know, raw material supply chain issues, plus at the customer, right? You know, when the automotive OEM shut down last summer, obviously that, you know, we've got no one to ship our product to. Which creates, you know, its own set of challenges. You know, one of the things that we work on is having some redundancy built in for suppliers. You know, having multiple options there, perhaps even looking at some more generic materials. You know, it's not an option for everybody. Just something that allows you to just kind of spread that risk around a little bit easier. You know, even outside of COVID, you know, last year, one of our primary raw materials comes from Texas. You know, most of those manufacturers of foam are based out of Texas, and the winter storm hit Texas this past year, and basically, you know, those plants shut down, and we are still feeling ramifications from that. So, you know, that these supply chain issues, you know, they don't get solved quickly. You've got to come up with ways to manage that. You know, as far as, you know, how does technology play into this? Well, you know, one's making sure that your supply chain teams, you know, have the tools they need to be able to make the decisions, you know, to find new solutions. So whether it's tools or data, you know, do they have the ability to identify solutions when they come available, or is it, you know, are they managing everything in 30 spreadsheets and it just takes a long time to find the answer they're looking for?
All right, thank you. And Denise, we'll close out this question with any thoughts that you might have.
I think Ashton and Dirk really did a great job of providing some actionable things around supply chains and how to shore that up. My only comment that I would add is this is going to be long-lasting impact for us, because if you look at the reason why we had supply chain issues, one big word that really pops up is globalization, and we can underline that a couple of times. And while we are feeling confident about our response to COVID-19 and our vaccine rollout, and our businesses are coming back. When we look around the rest of the world, it's not the same case. And if you can look at the percentage of people in Asia that are vaccinated, or even in Europe and UK, and how that is going to continue to have that impact on our supply chain is something that's going to last for some time. So I think that working and encouraging and being able to help the rest of the world respond to COVID-19 is really going to have a overall economic impact on our businesses here in the US.
Great. Thank you guys for those different perspectives on that. Our next question. So the American worker is dealing with health concerns, financial worries, social issues, as well as potential weather-related catastrophes. How is this impacting our workforce, and what are some things we can do as business leaders? Denise, I'm going to go back to you and let you kick this one off.
So I think some of the changes that have occurred over the past year are going to stick with us for quite some time. And in fact, some of the norms that we're going to look at and wonder, why haven't we adopted these sooner? Things like cleanliness and disinfecting. I think that there's just going to be a new standard that's out there for employers to provide to their employees. We've changed our expectations around shared workspaces, shared tools, and shared common areas. And then in manufacturing, I've said this before, I think our approach to illness and absenteeism needs to change. As you mentioned in the introduction, I worked for almost 30 years for Corning Incorporated. So, and all that time was in plants. There's a real badge of honor to come to work, even if you're not feeling well. If you have a headache or a sniffle, you go to work. And manufacturers are essential workers, and we know that we're dependent on, and that we're going to work day or night, good weather, bad weather, and even a little illness. And I think that we've really learned a lesson with COVID-19, and that maybe it's time for us to relook at that and see, can we do the social distancing? Can some jobs be done remotely? I can't believe I'm saying that as a former plant manager, but certain situations really change the way that you look at things. I also think, the social unrest also is going to have a long impact on our employees around diversity, equity, inclusion, and how are you addressing unconscious biases? Are you being intentional in overcoming barriers that are created by systemic racism and sexism? And that these are conversations that need to happen with employers. And then in manufacturing, my third point on this would be that for a long time, manufacturing has been plagued with a labor shortage. We have 4 times more retirees than emerging workers entering our industry. So what that means is, when you look at an organization, if they look at the number of people who are retiree eligible versus the number of people who are applying for their jobs, they have 4 times as many leaving manufacturing. And while this continues to become a problem, we do see a younger generation that is 7% more likely to consider working in the manufacturing industry, and about 12% less likely to view it as being a industry in decline. Now, that's not numbers to get really excited about, but however, we were at such a deficit for so long, it is a little sign of hope that the younger generation is seeing manufacturing as a really viable career. And so hopefully that younger generation will really help us with this skills gap that we have that exists. And I think that in order to keep our workforce current with the emerging trends, we really need to commit to making sure that those incumbent workers are also going through training. And then my last comment on that is all of these stressors, we know that they have physical impact on our employees. So I would say being in human resources right now would be one of the most incredibly difficult jobs to have in any manufacturing plant, actually in any industry right now because of what we're going through. But I think recognizing all these different stressors and putting together plans and initiatives in each of them is very important.
Okay, thank you. And Phil, what do you think about how these concerns are affecting our workforce, and what are you doing as a business leader?
Well, I'll comment first on Denise's response. It is actually interesting to see the problem with the graying of the workforce and the opportunity it does create for younger workers who are much more focused on technology, perhaps, than those jobs they're replacing, the folks that they're replacing, because they're coming in and they're expecting to find the technology that they use at home. It's kind of consumerism that's driving their interest. And hopefully, as we bring more technology into manufacturing, it'll make manufacturing an even more interesting workplace for those workers. For us specifically, we're not in a factory environment. We have knowledge workers that we're working with, and while we were one of the fortunate companies that throughout COVID we were able to keep busy, keeping busy doesn't really relieve the employees of health concerns and social issues and other stressors. So while we were partially virtual prior to COVID, COVID forced us now to be 100% virtual because our office lease ended up at the end of April last year. And so we made the decision at that time just to move everything into storage and go 100% virtual. I saw a great meme actually that summed up our time during COVID. It's we're not working from home, we're living at the office. And that was certainly the way things felt for us. But throughout the past year, we tried to provide ourselves with, provide our employees with some relief from those stressors. We gave them an allowance that could apply to any office equipment that they might need at home. The allowance didn't require any justification or approval, just anything that would help them to feel less stressed in their work environments at home. We also sent frequent shipments of snacks and treats. It was a benefit that our employees experienced when they were accustomed to that when we had an office. They come in the office, they grab a soft drink, they grab some potato chips or snacks or something. So, but now going forward, we're assessing now what an office is in a post-COVID world. What's the purpose of an office and how would we use it differently? So while we feel like we will definitely execute on plans to get back into an office by the end of the summer, it definitely is going to be assessed differently, and it will look different than it would have a little over a year ago.
All right, thank you. I like those things that you say you guys did. Those are definitely some things that would boost employee morale in those tough times that we went through. So thank you for that. Dirk, I'll give it to you now.
Okay, thank you. Just to touch base on what Denise said about the social distancing and issues for a traditional manufacturing environment. Yeah, we had to rethink, we got to spread our employees out. We do the deep cleaning, that's something that, we probably should have looked at still doing 20 years ago. But for the health concerns, we see that the most in our environment, in the manufacturing world. And, one of the challenges is, what do we do? Like the question says, what can we do as business leaders? And, businesses we got to start reaching out to the community more, especially if you're in a smaller community like us. What can we do for the people in the community and that work for us on health issues? Do we help out with daycare? Because we see a lot of single parents, they just can't get a job because of daycare issues. Utilizing mobile clinics maybe more. Our HR manager, she's working on a program where her name is Laura Clark. She's bringing in mobile clinics for our people just because they can't get out and go to the doctor. And it's those little things that we as businesses and businesses leaders have to do for our people. We have to really think differently now and really help the people that work for us and help the communities. The younger generation comment, maybe this is a different discussion, but in my world, the younger generation doesn't want to work in manufacturing. We've held a lot of job fairs at the local high schools, Chamber of Commerce, and it's pretty interesting the data that we're getting back from these job fairs. And I don't know. I don't know if I can agree with the younger generation wants to work in manufacturing. We're seeing the exact opposite.
Okay, thank you for that, your perspective there. That's a little different than what we've heard. Ashton, I'll let you wrap up this question with any thoughts that you may have.
Well, I definitely need to hear more about the Mariner snack program. I think we all need to get on board with that. Yeah, I mean, I think we've heard ideas, from HR related benefits. I think the stipend for office equipment. We all dealt with working remote, and for a lot of manufacturing companies that was brand new to them. I can certainly say that for Sage. But we came through that fairly well. We've adjusted, and we've even got parts of the organization, including our IT organization, that is now permanently remote. So that is something new for us as well. Part of what we went through over the past year, a lot of the struggles just came with the uncertainty, right? So when the automotive OEM shut down, our revenue is basically zero at that point. And so what's going to happen? So a lot of people were concerned, a lot of people worried. And so I would just add, I think it's important for organizations just to be open and transparent, and communicate with employees. Don't just sit in a locked room and try to figure it out. Communicate on where we're at, what are the issues we're facing, and and get engaged with employees and help them feel like they have a hand in the solution, right? So if they feel like they're part of that solution, I think that relieves a lot of the stress, and then they can see a potential light at the end of the tunnel that may relieve some of that uncertainty. But otherwise, I think there's some great ideas. I kind of agree with Dirk. I would certainly love to hear solutions on how we can make manufacturing more attractive to younger folks. Sage has traditionally had a pretty good pipeline for college folks. I think that has dwindled over the years. And so I think that's maybe a topic for another webinar, is how we can make a manufacturing more attractive to the next group.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That could be a whole webinar in itself. All right, thank you for your answers on those questions. Really insightful, and hopefully some good, a lot of good feedback there. We have a couple of questions that we're going to take from some participants that we have. The first one is, as the post-COVID recovery begins, we've heard a lot about labor shortages nationwide. What do you guys think, or what are your suggestions that we could do, or what are your plans and best practices to address those shortages? Dirk, I'll start with you.
Well, ironically, we're going through that right now. As the OEMs are firing back up, our labor shortage gap is widening. As of right now, going into this week, to run fully staffed, we're about 55 people short. That's across all three shifts. And nothing changes by the time 4th of July comes and ends, we'll be about 90 people short. So that's a real challenge to us. We gotta raise our hourly rates. We've done that. We gotta be market competitive in that. As you can look around, I mean, even McDonald's is starting at $15 an hour. We never competed with McDonald's, but now we got to compete with McDonald's. So one of the things that we did is raise our rates. There's been also a suggestion that we're working on from Andrew Lindbergh. He is our operations manager here, is we're really looking into alternative shifts. We've reached out to a couple other companies within our organizations that have done that, and it's been very successful. So this seems very attractive. We sent out a poll to our people to see, what kind of reaction we we would get. And we also have an employee engagement team here. We suggested that to them, and we got really positive feedback. And actually, we got enough volunteers to do a trial, a small sample size of some of our assembly processes. So thinking of alternative shifts, raising wages, not high to absolutely where we have to shut the doors, but being competitive in the local market, and really communication, not only in the company here, but communication out in the community to change the reputation of manufacturing, right? So those are some of the those are the three biggest things that we're doing to battle the labor shortages.
Okay, thank you. Ashton, from your perspective, what are you guys doing?
So, very similar to some of the things that Dirk described, working on rates. I think some of this can also be part of a marketing issue. How many people are aware of manufacturing organizations in your local area, and what they actually make? There's not a lot of, traditionally, this is at least what I've seen, there's not a lot of marketing on social media for manufacturing organizations that, maybe explain why folks should want to come work for you. I think some of that can help, and Win Sage has certainly embraced that over the last couple of years, but prior to that, it was basically non-existent. But another, solution that we're starting to work on is, we addressed it earlier, is you can't necessarily replace people with technology, but in some areas you can at least, use technologies to fill some of the more difficult positions, right? So, I know Mariner is involved in some of the automated inspection, and that is a very labor intensive process. It's a very difficult job to do well. So that, some of those are key candidates to really use technology to perhaps move some of those positions to focus on some other areas and address any shortages, at least in those types of areas where it's just very difficult to find the right people, because not only is there's a lack of people, but it gets even harder to find the right person for some of these roles that are very specific. So again, really, I would say, look for ways to use technology to either replace or really enhance, these positions.
Okay, thank you. Denise, I'll let you have the floor next.
Yes, I would say just the turnover is a real problem for many industries, and in manufacturing, the average turnover increased in 2020 to 44%. Now, while this sounds like a really high number, it's actually one of the lowest industries. For instance, if you compare it to food and accommodations, they're sporting a whopping 139% turnover. So, so I know that doesn't give you a whole lot of sleep at night, Dirk, to know that, well, you're better than food and accommodations. Still, 44% is very costly to part of the business. And according to SHRM, the average that it costs a company to hire a new employee is $4,130. So when you start putting that into dollars and cents, if you take a plant of 100 employees and you assume the 44% turnover rate, you're looking at $180,000 annually spent on just hiring new people. And this number doesn't in any way include any of the, what we call the lost costs of the employee which has left the company. And when they leave a company, they take with them a lot of knowledge, a lot of what we call, tribal knowledge, as well as process knowledge. And those costs can approach close to $30,000 and $50,000 in lost knowledge, experience, and skill. So then you look at it and say, well, why do employees leave companies? And it's usually either they're dissatisfied or they think the grass is greener on the other side, or some combination of both. And the market is really tough right now, and employers are making lots of promises to your employees. So don't think that they're not being courted by other employers, because they are, and they're making promises of career paths and more additional salaries, more benefits, and most importantly, particularly to the younger generation, opportunities for advancement. So there's really good business reason to reduce your employee turnover. And that really, I think 3 good ways to really focus on that is, number 1 is improving your frontline supervisor selection, training, and development. Employees quit supervisors, they don't really quit companies. And also those frontline supervisors are the ones that create that culture or the reputation that you may have in a community. And then second would be making sure that you have engaging, relevant training programs for all your non-desk workers. A lot of times we focus on the 20% in a plant that are our salaried employees, the engineers, technicians, and managers. I'm going to turn my video off because my internet's a little unstable, but I'm still here. But we really need to reach those non-desk workers and making sure that we're providing them a path of career development. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to move into their supervisor job, but it may mean that they get more responsibility, properly managing change in your company. And as we implement those automation and technology, you want to assure your top performers that they're going to be part of the process, and that their life will actually be improved by the change and helping them work through that change management.
All right, thank you. Phil, I'll let you wrap this one up.
I don't have a great deal to add to what the other panelists have said, but I will say that there was an article in today's Wall Street Journal affirming Dirk's assertion that manufacturing today is competing with fast food of all things. And so it is obviously going to be a necessity to raise the hourly rates for their workers, as well as making the environment more conducive and more interesting to younger workers. But all great responses, though, and very interesting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your feedback there. All right, we have one last question, and we've got about 7 minutes, so we'll run through this one real quick. This is from the audience. Have you seen an IT trainer shortage? With new technology comes new learning. Are you dependent on learning management systems for self-paced learning or live engagement? Let's start with you, Ashton, with this one.
So traditionally, it's been, we've used learning management systems. I talked about CBT training earlier, computer-based training. And that's really more for, off-the-shelf type technologies, whether it's, Microsoft Office tools, or other third-party packages for, things that are Sage specific. So, technologies that we've implemented or processes that we've implemented that deal with technology. The IT group is really working with the plant to lead that training ourselves. Because we're going to know it better than an IT trainer that we hire, and we just traditionally have not had really a dedicated position to IT training. But as I mentioned earlier, one of the ways we're looking to really expand our ability to discuss digital transformation is that technology literacy and looking for ways to increase that with some different training than we've done. We've always done cybersecurity training is very important, and I hope all of you guys are participating in that at your organizations. But expanding beyond that and saying, what is artificial intelligence and why is it important to our company, or what is machine learning and RFID? What are these different topics that we can start to discuss as an organization and look for ways to implement and how they might benefit our company. But but just IT-based training, at least at Sage, it's usually some kind of management program offered by a vendor, or for specific things, we do it all in-house.
All right, thank you, Ashton. Denise, being a training provider, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, I would say that prior to COVID, live training was definitely the preferred method, and we saw you see in the training industry that the computer-based training was decreasing. However, now that we've gone through COVID, we have really improved our learning management systems and the training that we provide online. Before it was, start up your PowerPoint.
All right, Denise, we're having a really hard time hearing you, Denise.
You could do other things while the PowerPoint was going or you were clicking through it. Today, the online training is much more engaging. There's activities, there are knowledge assessments at the end that can track, give the ability for training coordinators to, I'm so sorry. Does that help any when I turn off my?
It's yeah, really bad connection. Yeah, I'm going to go to Dirk. Let's just go to you, right? Denise is having some connection problems. Dirk, do you have anything to say about this?
I would say training, no. We really don't have any issues, but
Can you hear me now, Ryan?
It's just really dragging.
I do believe the question said any shortages. We are seeing that IT field, that controls field is very competitive. I would say shortage, no, but you have to be competitive in that market, and if you're not going to get the people you need or you want to meet your specific industry.
All right, Phil, I think you're I've lost my order here. So Phil,
Yeah,
I think you're the last one. We'll wrap it up with you.
Sure, and thanks a lot, Ryan. Of course, in our space where we're dealing with advanced technology solutions and AI, if there's a CBT out for it, it's probably outdated already. So really, I think most of our folks are dealing with information exchange on an organic level through thought leaders, through blogs and YouTube and the like. And that's how I think a lot of our developers, of course, they're learning the foundational skills through traditional methods, but then how you take the skills with individual tools and then weave together a solution. That's something that our teams work very closely together in sort of a mentorship type of capacity. So we have leads who are working closely then with more juniors to help them to indoctrinate them in the best practices for how to develop the types of solutions that we're developing.
All right. Well, thank you guys so very much. All great insights on a lot of different topics. So thanks for being here, and thank you to all the participants for spending your lunch hour with us and joining us today. You guys will get an email after today's session. It'll have some contact information in there if there's any follow-up or questions that you may have, or something that you didn't get to ask the panelists today. So thank you, and have a great afternoon, everyone.